everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
We are back. It is time for some Deadpool 2 spoilers. We're going to do a Deadpool 2 spoiler cast. Not live today, just me and Eric talking off the cuff about Deadpool 2 without live commenters. Originally, Dan was supposed to be on the show with us. We talked about that earlier in the Omnibus. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it, and we didn't have time to replace him and put a panel together, so it's just me and Eric today. And let's just get right into it. So Eric and I didn't do how we felt about for this. We did that with Infinity War, but more often what we do these days is we kind of just do how we felt about the spoiler cast together.
Well, and we also did for Infinity War because we were a week off. It would be a whole week. This just came out 3 days ago. Right,
and also Infinity War was so huge we couldn't, wait that long and not weigh in on it. So anyway, so we're back to what we've been doing lately with the Omnibus. If you were confused about that, and we're going to kind of do the how we felt about thing on top of the spoilery thing. We're going to put those together, combine it, and we're going to start like we often do with the how we felt about thing, and find out what Eric's best thing, worst thing was, and how he felt walking out of the theater, and overall, if he had a really good time watching Deadpool 2. Let's just jump right into those, Eric. What'd you think, buddy? How you feel about Deadpool 2?
Well, let me rewind for a moment.
Okay, sure.
And I want to remind everyone what my thoughts on the first film are.
Yeah, okay.
Because I like the first film. I think is the safest, softest R-rated movie I've maybe ever seen. I think it, with the exception of the love scene, I think that movie is an incredibly safe R-rated movie. I think it's good but not great. My opinions do not reflect the opinions of Geekvolution or anyone else working here.
I get why you feel that way. We don't have to talk about Deadpool 1 again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The whole it's too soft thing has always struck me as you're not allowing it to be what it wants to be.
Okay.
That's always been my issue with that. Is well, you wanted a different movie from what they made. Like what they're trying to do, they did really, really well. Like I said this in the rewind. I don't think Reynolds went into that movie going, people aren't going to accept the Deadpool from the comics. I think he made the movie he wanted to make.
Maybe so. This is the movie I wanted. I loved this movie. I loved how hard R it is. I love how weird and bizarre and off the wall a lot of the like pop culture references are, and I like that it's a little bit more serious. I felt more in this movie. I don't think you know this because I'm like a stone and I'm like a sphinx and you can't read me.
Yeah.
I cried a little bit.
Did you?
At the scene you hate.
Scene I hate.
Near the end when he goes to heaven and he gets with her and he can't be with her. I cried a little bit.
Really?
A little bit.
Okay.
I related and connected to Deadpool in this film.
I didn't hate that scene. I just resist characters going to heaven like that.
It doesn't bother with Deadpool because he's got the death thing. I don't know.
Sure, and that's fair, but I wasn't thinking about that in the moment.
I kept waiting for death to pop up. I was like, they're gonna do it, and they're gonna make fun of Thanos not having death.
That would be great. The issue I had with it was I was never positive it was literal. And we do this it felt real TV to me.
It felt literal to me.
The only thing that made it literal finally was when she said, they're gonna need you, and she was cryptic about it. And I don't know if you noticed that, but she was like, well, your family needs you.
Well, his heart's not in the right place. Like, that was kind of... She told him something that's important for later.
That's true, but that could have just been an unconnected kind of destiny thing, or it could have been coincidence. Like, I was never totally sure if he was actually in some kind of actual literal heaven, or if it was just kind of a dream sequence thing.
I took it as literal.
It worked better for me on second viewing.
Oh, did you see the second time?
I went again today. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had such a weird experience with this movie. I felt the need to go again. I didn't want to talk about it with just a first impression. So I feel better about that. I feel better. I feel a little bit better about a lot of things.
Okay.
But yeah.
But no, I connected with and cared for Deadpool way more in this movie. There were more emotional stakes for me personally in this film than there were in the first film. I liked it a lot. I like it a lot better than the first one. I'm not saying it's better, I'm just saying I like it better.
Sure.
And it connected with me personally more. Also, X-Force is maybe the funniest thing I've seen the movie in forever.
It's really funny.
It's so funny.
And hands down the funniest thing in that movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm gonna go, best thing is, the plot of this movie is the plot that the X-Men movie should be doing. It's very X-Men have become obsessed, and I mean X-Men the movies have become obsessed with being the Avengers, right? Like, it has to be a big event film. When you go back to, like, X2 and X-Men comics and things like that, right? Like, it can be a much smaller story.
Okay, but it's really funny that you say that, because this problem starts with X2. As much as I love that movie, at the end of that movie, it becomes, oh no, all the humans are going to die.
That's true.
All the mutants are going to die.
That's fair.
It starts a little smaller, but then it turns into the Cerebro, the bigger Cerebro device. It's going to kill everybody.
That's fair.
The stakes do get enormous.
Because he moves the panels around.
Neither Deadpool movie goes to anything like that big.
No, I like how small it is. It's an abused kid at a home.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you couldn't do that with X-Men, with an X-Men movie, because... like, X-Men, it wouldn't focus on one kid, right? Like, it would be a school of kids.
Sure.
Which is what this is. It's a school of abused mutant kids. And you can... There's so much stuff you can mine there with the X-Men metaphor, right? And we do that in this, where it's like, it's a whole school of abused kids.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much there, right?
It's the perverse academy, and the headmaster is, anti-Professor X. And it's funny, because I said that Ajax, in my rewind, that Ajax in the first movie is, for Deadpool, his, like anti-perverse, bad Professor X. And I still stand by that, but they went full tilt with that in this movie.
So I really, really liked that. I liked how small and personal the story felt, and I liked that it felt... relevant's the wrong word. Relevant to the human condition, in the way that X-Men's supposed to be, that I don't get in any way with Apocalypse. Obviously Days of Future Past is better about it. And I've got real bad vibes about Dark Phoenix not being about anything, in the way that Apocalypse isn't really about anything.
We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, I'm not...
They might have turned that around. But
Yeah.
New director might help, a little more time.
Yeah,
They put it off 6 months.
Yeah, well, we will see how that ends up, but I would not be surprised if the movie that they made, and before fixing it, or before whatever they're doing, looked more like Apocalypse than not.
Yeah, sure.
So I really appreciate that. I really like that. It really resonated with me emotionally, the entire film. But I really like that we had such a small-scale story. On the other hand, my worst part is... the kid that plays the main antagonist... didn't care for him that much.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's a very thin line to walk to have a character that you can believe can go either way.
Yeah, it's hard. Sure.
It worked better with Pyro. I don't hate Pyro.
And I was thinking about Pyro the whole movie, yeah.
But
might have gone with somebody with a different power. It was kind of just Pyro again.
It was kind of just Pyro again. Fire is such an obvious and literal place to go with that.
Yeah,
with that kind
he's
of
enraged.
Yeah. I didn't...
Also, with the religious, cleansing thing...
Yeah.
Kind of the obvious place to go. Almost would have been... I mean, you need something that kills people fast, I get, where he's, really dangerous. It would have almost been, with the whole religious thing, with the speech that the kid keeps making the headmaster say.
Which is great. I really like that.
I like that, too. It might have been cool if it was water, but I don't know if water would have been visually the way to go.
Yeah.
So, I see why they
You could have done something cool with water, with, baptism or whatever.
Right, yeah. Again,
but, I thought he was kind of unlikable in most scenes and almost never funny.
Well, and we wanted him to be gold balls. But
yeah, I wanted him to be gold balls!
I don't know what kind of metaphor you do with that.
I wanted him to be gold balls so bad. There's also a point where he mouths off about, you never see any plus-size superheroes. I'm like, that's because it's an active job. It's a running job. I couldn't be a superhero. I don't run that much. If I was, I'd run and I'd be in shape. That's why. That's why there's none of those. But, no, I kind of didn't like him until the end. When he gets real cryy,
it kind of works.
It kind of works. And I think that's part of why I did cry a very, very little bit. I'm talking, eyes watering, just a little bit. Not, crying.
Thought his...
I was being primed for it. Because I had him, and that was kind of hitting me, and then Deadpool dies, and he goes, and he's going to get his happy ending, and then he doesn't, and, I don't know, that all compiled, and...
Wasn't his performance a little dodgy?
The kid?
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever think he's bad, just I don't think he's given good material.
I don't know, there's a couple places where I felt it's difficult to get a kid with enough experience to really, act certain scenes.
But it's never the emotional stuff that I felt like it was dodgy with. When he, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
There's a bit toward the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, the scene early on when they're in the cell, there's some of that, and also that pen joke is never funny. But,
no, I never liked the pen joke.
But when we get to the end, like when he's like crying and like Deadpool has his talk with him, like all of that really works for me. I never thought he was bad.
Okay.
If you do, like, what part?
I'm trying to remember exactly. There's a bit where he's. I don't even remember. It's not that scene. It's before that, but it's in the third act.
Okay.
So no, I'm with you. That stuff's okay. It's like when I think it's like when he's first at the school and he's standing outside of the school and he's like screaming at things and like
yeah, maybe
there's a little bit there where I'm not quite believing his performance, but
that's fair.
But it's also a hard role to pull off.
It is. I will go with feeling it. Yeah. How about you?
Well, before I say anything I have to say, I'll just straight away do that.
Yeah, sure.
Like I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I do not like it as well as the first movie. I've seen it twice now. I'm still weird about some things. And overall, it's not as much for me, is the thing. So some of this is absolutely taste issue.
Which is the thing that we talked about afterwards, is that
issue.
like the first movie's maybe a little bit more for you, and this movie's maybe a little bit more for me.
Absolutely. Here's what I think is really interesting about that, if I can start at this place.
Absolutely.
First movie, you think is kind of too soft for Deadpool, and you want it to be more comic book and more like you know screwed up psychopath Deadpool, and then we kind of get him more to that place at the end. Like I mean, not psychopath, but like that movie ends with no, he's not a hero. He's going to refuse to be a hero. It's kind of like the perfect ending for you to a movie you otherwise didn't really want. And this movie is precisely the opposite of that. I think that's really interesting. This Deadpool movie that you absolutely love ends with him straight up being a superhero forevermore. And I think it's really interesting that you're okay with that, given the things you didn't like about the first movie.
Yeah, but
I think that's so interesting.
But one of the things about that ending, and we talked about this in the Marvel Mania. Go back and watch the Marvel Mania Deadpool. We talked about this in the ending. Is you and I read that ending differently, where you read it as them telling us 4 or 5 moments, like we're going to get another moment in the next movie, and he might come around. And my reading was like he's just too cool for school. He can't be bothered to have morals. I don't know. It worked for me in the movie, and with this Deadpool. Like, having had him in the first film, like, maybe I was just more adjusted to it. I don't know. He felt wackier and zanier in the way that I like Deadpool, and he felt tortured and tragic in the way that I like Deadpool.
Yeah, well, and let me say, like all
I'm
of
not
that,
a huge Deadpool fan, right?
All of that worked for me.
Right.
I liked that we kind of, I think, pretty realistically get him to where we get him at the end. I like that, and it's very consistent with where he's left at the end of that last movie, which I think is kind of hard to pull off because he also got everything he ever wanted. You know? Like, he gets to be with Vanessa, but he still is somewhat detached from his humanity and doesn't really trust people.
I also buy that he'll be an okay father. Like, when they go kids, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see this Deadpool having kids.
Yeah, which is really weird, but kind of impressive. But no, I'm impressed that we got him to a place where he kind of says, you know, F all, and he's, because like you said, we do read the end of that first movie differently, and my read is slightly different in the rewind when you go listen to that. Like
watching the second movie, I think you were completely right.
That has somewhat evolved, but it seems like the idea there is that he's like I said, somewhat detached from you know, his humanity and his, you know, belief in people, and so he's like, yeah, I've just had too much, you know, horrible stuff happen to me. This guy does not, you know, deserve to live anymore. To take that character and give him his you know, his wife, and for them to be happy, but he's still damaged enough that he's gonna kill people for money, and me buy it. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of impressive because, like I said in the rewind, he doesn't seem to kill anyone between his dishonorable discharge and losing Vanessa. So when he gets her back, you might think that he just would never be a mercenary. You know, but because he does what he does at the end of that last movie, you know that there's still something broken in him, and that's narratively the thing I'm most impressed with, is that he stays broken. I still care that like Reynolds is so fantastic at making me continue to care about what happens about this character, even when he doesn't care about anybody at all. And I really like that he makes me buy that he is in denial about not caring about this kid, but he does care about this kid. So when he has to put his heart in the right place, there we are, back to the whole, having a heart and all that with like with Iron Man. When he has to put his heart in the right place, he thinks he's doing it for purely selfish reasons, and he's not. And I don't think he ever understands that. And I think that's really cool. I really dig that. But anyway, so just taste issue stuff. I'll start with the thing I least liked about this movie, because you kind of geared me up for, you loved this and I did not love it as much as you did. My thing is, that I have relatively wholesome sensibilities.
Sure.
And
less so since Spanier.
Yeah, right. And the thing I love about
Neil.
The thing I love about the first movie is Neil.
You're the guy who keeps making us
and
watch
Neil.
All the... Yeah,
thanks,
and
Neil. Good old Neil. We love you, Neil. So there's the thing I love most about that first movie is that it completely wins me over on the raunchy humor, and I'm never turned off to it. And I was with this movie over and over and over again. The first movie, I feel like I've been able to put my own sensibilities away, and I'm completely with Deadpool, and everything he finds funny, I find funny. I wonder with this if some of it isn't just writing. I don't think the script is as strong. I think the plot's okay. I think a lot, not a lot, but some of the dialogue writing, some of the joke writing falls flat for me. Too many repeated jokes from the first movie, and I had that on a second viewing too, where we go back to like the cocaine and the cure for blindness, and we go back to your face looks like an avocado, and stuff with Dopinder, and there's several places where I feel like we're maybe leaning a little bit too much on the jokes from the previous movie, which is also kind of a hard line to walk, because like it is a direct sequel, and I like that we're recognizing some of that, and this is a thing that people do. You'll have inside jokes, and in real life you'll have people who people will build on jokes that they've had before, but I thought there was too much of that.
I didn't have that, but I also didn't live with that movie for a week before I saw this.
Yeah.
So I'm not super aware of
I think my perspective is different because I'm now so familiar with that first movie.
Because I didn't even remember the cure for blindness joke in the first one.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even remember that was in the first one.
Yeah.
I think the avocado one is the best of those, and just that where he's like an avocado, right?
And it's just that I'm trying to think of examples.
Yeah, on top of everything.
That one's actually fine. It's just I'm having a hard time thinking of a bunch of other ones right now. But yeah, but that's the main thing. Is just a lot of the humor didn't play for me.
Well, and I do think a lot of the.
And I think there are jokes that I laughed at harder than a lot of stuff I loved in the first movie. So I mean, like, it's very funny, but there were more places where I was supposed to be laughing where I wasn't, and so here's the issue with the comedic balance, I guess, for me. First movie, you had more downtime. You had more places that were dialogue driven and where it was just banter between a couple of characters. This movie is a lot more action heavy, and for the story they're telling, it has to be. So that's understandable. But I think it's going for the same percentage this movie that it did the last time with, and I don't mean to compare them too much, but it is a direct sequel. I mean, and by that I just mean like they are trying to achieve a lot of what they achieved the first time. So we have, I think, about as many like obscure jokes that are only going to play for a very small portion of the audience, and I don't think that's working as well this time around. Partly because there's a lot more action and there's a lot more kind of visual humor, and most of that works. But there's also a lot more. I forget what I was going to say.
Sorry.
But no, you're fine. Yeah.
There's a lot more...
I don't know. I don't remember where I was going.
Okay. I agree that some of the raunchy stuff...
Yeah.
Or the raunchier stuff, I guess, for this movie, a lot of it does feel like it's just like and sex words.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't know, it's more creative when you just use random words.
Yeah. Sure.
So, and so I guess some of that stuff doesn't play for me, just... And not even like taste-wise, we're just like, I feel like you could have done better.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of that is just improvisation that's not working and how much of it's scripted. It's hard to say. The thing you got to keep in mind with the first movie is that they had a lot of years to refine that script.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not saying this feels rushed, but I also think it could have used another year.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, I liked it the way it was, but like it probably could have been even funnier if they worked on it even longer.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that I think the action is way better in this movie. Not
sure.
that the action in the first movie is bad, but they brought on the John Wick guy, and you can tell they brought on the John Wick.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Or one of the John Wick, the two guys directed John Wick. No, I thought some of the action was really cool. What is your best thing?
It's rougher. You know, so some of that is a little bit harder for me to look at, but like that, you know, I mean, I expect that. It's
when Deadpool's bones are like broken, he's like half broken. He's like, and when he gets ripped in half, I loved when he gets ripped in half.
That was awesome, yeah. My best thing is, I mean, okay, so funniest thing is the X-Force thing.
Yeah.
Followed closely by jokes about real-world cinema, because they're a lot funnier this time, and there's more of them, and I appreciate that it went
and
as
there's
far
a
as it
master
did.
list online now, so you don't have to see the movie. You can just go look at the list.
Of course there is, yeah. But I love that it went that far. I think one of the funniest jokes in the movie is the Passion of the Christ line.
It's so good.
It's great.
At least domestically.
That killed me. I thought that was wonderful
Because the rest of the world doesn't have religion.
I think it has maybe my favorite teaser now in superhero film of all time.
It's
really not good. Just because the Logan line is so funny. It's because it's so provocative. Two things. It's so provocative to open your movie with your main character blowing himself up and having his disembodied head talk to you as it's flying at the camera. How do you not keep watching a movie?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You watch this on Netflix, you're like, well, I have to know what happens next, right? And then you follow that immediately with your opening title sequence, which is done like a Bond movie, and it's brilliant. It's so well done.
Yep.
And is now probably also the best of those parodies. Because there are a lot of those kinds of parodies, and like Spy Hard has a really good one. I think this one's better.
It also the director credit I think is the funniest out of both movies. I think, and one of the guys that killed John Wick's dog is the funniest of the just like fake titles.
Well, and I love looking at the fake titles compared to the first one because it was the first movie was written by the real heroes here, and the second movie was written by the real villains.
Yeah.
And that's great. But also that opening teaser, or that teaser is brilliant because it's so Deadpool. I mean, like it's super comic book Deadpool. I think that's maybe one of it's one of the 3 or 4 biggest places where they have absolutely nailed what that character was in Joe Kelly.
Well, and I like, and this is the only.
And you were talking earlier about vibe. I do love how Joe Kelly, the vibe of this movie is.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I got.
Yeah.
I was like, this feels like Joe Kelly did.
Absolutely has that. It's wonderful.
And
killing off all of X-Force feels like a thing he would do.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I really like and I guess no other movie could do this, but I really like that in the opening teaser. He's like. The idea of a movie being able to come out and be like, look, we understand that the bar has been raised since the last time we were here.
Yeah.
Like, if this movie was made...
That's right.
If this movie was made if this movie came out in 2010, it would be like, well, then The Dark Knight came out, and I think that's really funny. I think that's really good. It also was weird because Logan feels a million years away, or a million years ago in some ways.
It does.
I'm like, oh, you're reacting to Logan. I kind of forgot that came out last year.
Makes it feel like a Weird Al album.
Yeah.
In a way, you know? Because you had to spend all this time putting your songs together, but those songs are not relevant, and nobody's thinking about those songs.
Well, and given how they're making it, they had to have known that Logan was something special, because they're making this probably around the time that movie comes out.
Well, and I think it's also important to remember that in the
I want
theater,
the spinny thing.
Yeah, with the music box. But I think it's also important to remember that in the theater, Logan opened with a Deadpool short.
It's true.
They probably were already planning that.
Yeah.
Or planning to do something with it. And they're trying to make a big running gag out of, Deadpool is jealous of Wolverine.
Yeah.
So of course they opened it with that. I think it's really impressive that simultaneously that opening is as provocative and dramatic and tragic and sad as it is, and you don't yet know why he's doing this. Also, the first time, I expected that to be toward the end. I didn't think we'd get not even middle of the first act.
We catch up.
before we do the catch up thing, like we because in the first movie we catch up really at the end of the second act, right?
Well, it's weird because the entire second act, the first and second act are kind of happening simultaneously.
They're together, yeah.
No, and I think that's intentional, like, playing with the audience. Like, you think this is going to be a thing.
You think we're going to do that again.
And then now here we are.
No, but this movie is just linear, except for that opening.
Yep.
I cannot stress how great that opening is. Like enough. Because, so what I was going to say is, not only is it that wonderfully dramatic in setting up the tragedy of the film, but it also is able to do that hilarious Wolverine joke at the same time, and that is the essence of what this Deadpool is that in our funniest scenes we're also laying the groundwork for the story, and we do some of in some of the funniest scenes we're also doing some of the best drama, some of the best story.
We also make fun of Rob Liefeld in this movie, which was nice.
I just lost it. The first A Man Who Can't Draw Feet. I was sitting with an artist friend of mine today that I just happened to run into at the theater. I don't know if you've met him before, but he does kids drawings for Lucasfilm for Star Wars. He actually got flown out and got to go to the solo premiere.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is really neat. And I think he went to the Force Awakens premiere too. But anyway, I just happened to run into him at the theater today. Daryl Woods. And he and I watched the movie together, and he's an artist, and he lost it at the Liefeld joke. But yeah, you were always complaining with that first movie that they're kind of praising the ground he walks on too much,
and never mentioning any of the other people that worked on Deadpool.
And there's one reference.
Yep, and it's just making fun
here,
of it.
And it's just making fun of it. It's wonderful. And it's so true too.
Yeah,
that's what's great about it. Because he's like, you've got, she's got luck powers, and that sounds like a thing that you'd only come up with if you couldn't draw feet. And I just think that's wonderful. Oh, and also, he says, not very cinematic.
Yeah.
That is the one scene where the CG is pretty dodgy. Did you notice that?
Well, and everything with Juggernaut.
Yeah, but dodgy in a different way, where like that's just a facial effect that's never quite working for me. Where once again, like I always do, I'm wondering why we couldn't have shot more of that practically. But then I'm thinking about the shape of the head, and you can't just put a helmet on a guy. Like his head is shaped differently. So that is a CG creature. So I will give them that to some degree. That's not just Uncanny Valley. It just doesn't look great. But no, the scene where he's talking to her over the comm, and she's getting in the truck, and he doesn't realize that she's getting in the truck, and she's like jumping through explosions, and the car flips over and all that. A lot of that doesn't look great.
Interesting. I didn't jump out at me, but I didn't just see it. I didn't just re-see it.
Oh, okay. It jumped out at me the first time.
Okay. Too. Okay. Well, we've been rehearsed to talk about Domino's amazing.
She's amazing. Yeah, I love her so much.
I like her in.
Don't forget to get us back to Juggernaut here in a little bit, because there was a thing I noticed that I want to make sure that I tell you about. With Juggernaut and the Lex 3 thing.
Okay.
But anyway.
Okay. I like her in Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything.
Yeah, I only know her from Atlanta. She's Donald Glover's girlfriend.
Okay.
In Atlanta. That's the only thing I know her from. She's great in this. I'm so excited that she's just for X-Force with her. And Cable is also really good.
He's really good.
He is played like completely straight without being a joke. And I mean that in we're not making, except for the one thing that we do make fun of, we're not making fun of like. I was expecting more. If we were going to make fun of him, like I guess more like Rob Liefeld jokes, right? Like your guns are so big, and we just kind of play him
used a little bit more of. Although
someone should have commented on how big his guns are.
Deadpool does. I think it's.
Did I miss that one?
I think it's pretty. Well, I don't know if he comments on how big they are. He just is excited about them. There's a couple of places where he's just like. Hey, you should fire that gun because, like, you can fire now. It's a great gun, and then like it fires, and he's like, that's he's really excited about the gun. But I think that's really consistent with his character, where there are some things that he doesn't make fun of because he just thinks they're great. For a second, this is neither here nor there. I just thought of this, but it was a little odd that he kind of half made fun of Negasonic's name just because he loved it so much in the first movie. But yeah, there are things that Deadpool like does not make fun of profusely because he just loves them.
Yeah. And the fanny pack joke is really funny both times.
It is, yeah. Well, especially with Weasel.
Yeah.
But when Weasel just loses his mind, now we both know! It's a fanny pack, and everybody knows it! Yeah, I lost it. I will say, I actually could have used more Weasel.
I could have used more Weasel. And he might not be in the next one. But no, I really like T.J. Miller, and I wish he was in this more.
Well, I should say, who knows what the next one's exactly going to look like?
Yeah.
Because Ryan Reynolds is talking like there won't be a Deadpool 3 and it'll just be an X-Force movie, and I don't know what exactly that looks like.
I kind of wish...
Having seen the movie now, I think that is maybe a natural progression. I don't know if it's smart. I still... Because I said this before we saw it, I still don't know how smart that is commercially.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, you throw him in the trailer, I guess people get it, right?
Yeah. I just don't know if a movie without Deadpool's name in it sells as well inherently.
I feel like you could have asked the same thing about Avengers, right? Like if Iron Man's name isn't in it, will it sell?
No, that's different because we made such a big deal out of it from the very beginning. Like I complained when Iron Man 2 came out that too much of that felt like just a commercial for eventually we're getting to Avengers. My issue with X-Force is that if that was always the plan, we've not done anything to telegraph it.
We say X-Force a lot.
In the movie.
Yeah, in the movie. You're right.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I'll be curious to see if that works. If the next Force movie can make, and weirdly, just being rated R actually kind of might be enough to let people know that it's still enough of what this is.
Yeah.
But then I worry it would be a more serious movie, and I don't know if people are by and large going to be as excited about that. So maybe that movie does really well, but when you do a sequel to it, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. But people are going to want that same blend of comedy if Deadpool is in a thing.
Yeah.
Or they're going to say, well, how come you can't do both? And the answer is, well, Ryan Reynolds is one guy. But
I really love that we got the X-Force comic costume. It's just him in the soot.
Yeah.
He just gets ash on him, and he's just great.
That's great. I honestly don't know if that was on purpose, but it must have been.
Yeah,
maybe it has to be. Yeah,
there's no way you accidentally made his costume
I didn't think of that until you said that.
And he's with the X-Force. The X-Force.
Yeah, if you don't know, his is that just his Uncanny costume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he gets it in Uncanny X-Force. I don't know if he's in the other X-Force books after that.
Yeah.
I only read his stuff. I didn't read the 4 different X-Force books.
If they did that on purpose, it's neat that they went to something that laid.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an aesthetic gag. It's not. And he doesn't even mention it.
No, that's true.
And they're selling that toy, which is why I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's how they did that.
Okay, yeah.
It's sold as X-Force Deadpool.
I want an action figure with him with duct tape.
Yes.
Because he's got duct tape all over him in that third act. I didn't notice that until the second viewing. But when he's outside the mansion, kind of crooning to Colossus, he's got Deadpool, or he's got duct tape all over his costume, and that was very funny. I want to go back to Domino for a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to go this far. She could maybe get away with her own comedy. Like with her own movie.
I'm not sure. I feel like she has to be a supporting character with that power. Like, I feel like that's a joke that could get old for 2 hours on its own.
I think...
I mean, just the actress, I think she could. But
there was a time when I would have said that about Deadpool.
Okay, that's fair.
That's the thing. I think if you gave... I think if the people making this movie sat down and said, what would that actually look like, it could be really clever and really creative. It would need a good supporting cast, obviously. Because one thing that I wanted the movie to talk more about and delve more into, and I don't know how it possibly could have, is the destiny question, because it's all over it. There is a huge destiny versus free will thing in the background of this movie that nobody's talking about. Maybe it's almost kind of cooler that nobody's talking about, but it's a thing that came a lot more alive for me on the second viewing, where she gets everything she wants because she has these powers that allow for that, but also you have Vanessa in the afterlife, like knowing some things about the future and stuff, and like things like have to work out the way they're going to work out in order for Deadpool to be able to be with Vanessa and get what he wants, and like the cosmos has kind of willed it this way, and also right then gave him someone who has destiny powers to help him get there, and it's a thing that will be a lot of fun to write about when I'm not totally prepared to talk a lot about it yet, but it's a thing that leapt out at me the second time where I'm like, okay, the world is kind of coalescing to his will right now because he's making the right decisions, and they're doing that literally because they have somebody with that power as a genetic thing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, every time she's on screen, she's wonderful, and I love how just kind of curious she is about everything. Or like she seems to kind of, you know, understand the absurdity of her own powers and like how weird it is that things just always work out for her. And she just has this like this genuine affect about her. Something
I assume we would do in a sequel,
yeah,
or whatever the next movie she's in is, because it won't be a sequel, it'll be X-Force or whatever, right? Is good luck not always being like the best luck, where like it's like, well, you didn't die, but you fell in something, you know, like that kind of thing. Where like you could have been shot by a bullet, but you weren't, but you fell in the truck of manure, right? Like that kind of a thing.
One of those was really interesting that she has a revenge motive and is like hardly concerned or interested in it because she was also produced by the Essex House, and it's almost like it's just another day at the office where when she finds out that that's why she, and that's another that also plays into my destiny thing, where she's like, I knew there had to be some reason I was here. It's like that's her powers. We call it luck. It's destiny powers. It's not luck. It's destiny. And she gets there, and she's like, oh yeah, I was tortured here. Just like nonchalantly, like no big deal, you know. And at first I kind of questioned that a little bit, and then I'm like, no, it's sort of like how super speed changes your perspective on life. Like, she's so used to things working out okay for her, but she also doesn't completely take it for granted. So, like, I found her really likable.
Yeah.
Where it was just sort of like, oh yeah, this is just the next part of my destiny, of my journey. You know?
Well, and everything's going to work out. Like, nothing bad's going to happen here.
As I'm talking about this, I am somewhat talking myself out of the notion of her having her own movie making any sense, but I want to see somebody try it. I really do.
I also want to mention, I think the Vanisher cameo is really, really funny.
It's really funny.
And I gasped in the theater.
You did. You
and you were like, it's going to be somebody. I was like, yeah, but I didn't expect Brad Pitt.
Honestly, until just this moment, I didn't know that's who that was.
Oh, it's Brad Pitt.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
People keep talking about cameos in that movie. I think a lot of them are pretty well masked. You have to explain some of them to me. I didn't even notice some of them.
Okay. I don't know what any of the other cameos are supposed to be or what they are or whatever.
I don't either. I haven't looked at the list.
Okay. Okay.
Just, no. I've seen the list online. Like, look, all those amazing Deadpool cameos. I'm like, oh, really? It had a bunch of cameos? Okay.
Well, half that list is probably just the X-Men, right?
Probably so. Yeah.
But no. I didn't expect Brad Pitt to be the person that
that's
manager
really funny.
was.
I saw it twice. I didn't notice.
Well, he's got a beard, and it is literally like blink and you miss it.
Yeah. I figured it was somebody, but I didn't even think to look it up later.
Yeah.
Now I feel stupid. I just didn't notice it.
No, I don't know. I did not expect Brad.
You said Alan Tudyk was there. I still can't see him.
Okay, he's the other redneck guy.
Yeah, I was looking real deep in those spaces. I could not see Alan Tudyk.
Interesting.
There. Which is weird because I'm usually pretty good at this, but
well, it's funny because I was like, that's Alan Tudyk, and I'm looking at the other guy, and I'm like, is it Nathan Fillion? Is Nathan Fillion in a fat suit? Like, it's not Nathan Fillion, but I was like, surely it's Nathan Fillion, because why would Alan Tudyk show up for one scene
I believe
with another?
You, but, so let's talk about the original X-Men thing. This proves that we are squarely in our own universe and we're not connected to anything else. Like, you notice, I'm not talking a lot about X-Men continuity anymore. That's because we don't have that anymore. It is in kind of a version of comic book X-Men, and then we'll do cameos and talk about things from X-Men movies, whatever we feel like cherry-picking and bringing in, you know?
Because it's set in the modern day, but we open a door to the 90s X-Men.
Yeah. And they all look, like they're going to look in, in Dark Phoenix, I'm sure.
Also, side note, not super important, but I'm never going to have anywhere else to bring this up.
Yeah, sure.
So I did a little research. We talked about this. If we assume that the Year of the Dog line in the first Deadpool is literal...
it's in the future.
The first Deadpool has to either take place in 2005/6, because 2000, I think, or maybe 6/7. I think 2006 was the last Year of the Dog, or this year. Because assuming that, like, because they're together for that year, and then the next year is when all the bad stuff happens. Which you can't,
because I think there are references, not just things Deadpool saying to the audience, but I think there are references in scene to things that take place after 2005 or 2006.
Yeah,
so I don't think it can be
so
that
Deadpool
year.
Either takes place, I think, in 2007 or this year. So yes,
but importantly, I mean, already it didn't fit, at all with. And what's funny is Apocalypse has made me care about this a lot less.
Well, yeah.
Because like they're not paying attention to that anymore.
I guarantee New Mutants won't fit into anything either.
No, it probably won't. And so we're in a place now where we're just making movies and we don't care. And now and obviously there were big questions about how Logan works too. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like we're telling good stories. It doesn't matter.
We're just making movies.
Someday I would love to see X-Men gasp rebooted and give us some and give us like a really good tight knit continuity. I'd also rather that on television if money were no object. Yeah. But anyway,
call it Mutant X.
You've got obviously already you had Colossus, which is a totally different thing, and now we've got Juggernaut, and he's a totally different thing.
But he is definitely Charles Xavier's brother, because he gets to read minds, but he doesn't have his legs. That seems like a fair trade-off.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. It's funny how they shoehorned that in. Just because they wanted to make sure that I think that was just for fans, so that fans knew what he was, what Juggernaut's supposed to be. Because in X3 he is some guy named Juggernaut.
Yeah, he's just a mutant named Juggernaut.
So you remember how after we saw the movie the first time, I was like, it's weird that they didn't reference the B-word line.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it in a really interesting way that I didn't pick up the first time around.
Is it in a
song? What they're doing with it, and I don't know if this is too subtle, but I'm positive I'm right about it.
Okay.
Because I had a totally different read on a Deadpool line after seeing it on a second viewing. So this is either too subtle or really kind of brilliant. Because it also is a character thing. So you have the kid. What is it? Fire Fist. Fire Fist. Remember Vanessa at the end? His name is terrible. Yeah. So you have. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry. I'm jumping all over the place. Don't F Colossus is really funny. I don't know. Her saying that.
Yeah.
I really kind of lost it. Anyway, so this is a hard movie to talk about without swearing. And last time I know, but it's part of the omnibus.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, so Fire Fist is in the cell with Deadpool, and there's a thing I gotta ask you about him later because I don't think it makes sense. I just remember
Fire Fist.
Yeah, I just remembered something.
Okay.
When he first goes into the prison, there's a thing I'm not sure about. Anyway, so he's in the cell with Deadpool, which is a little bit easy that they both get put in the cell together, but whatever. And
they got brought in together. They just throw them in the same cell.
Sure. And he says. The first rule of being in the icebox is you find the biggest guy there is and you make him your B word, right?
Right.
Says it again later. They do it twice. That's their reference to it. Because when he says that, that's when Deadpool looks at the camera and says steaming pile of foreshadowing. It's not just that there's a really big guy and that's foreshadowing that there's some big mutant there. The B word is supposed to foreshadow for fans in the know, because that was infamous that is Juggernaut. That's what's going on there.
Oh, okay.
I'm positive of it.
Okay.
And that's why they never make a direct reference to it.
Okay.
I
can see that.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, so what's
it's way too subtle.
Yeah.
I don't know that I buy that Fire Fist... I want to keep calling him Firefox. That Fire Fist gets brought to the icebox.
I had that question too.
I'm not buying it completely.
Well, okay. Here's the larger issue, right?
Yeah.
We have no idea what the state of this world is with mutants.
Okay.
I buy it 100% if it's like in the beginning of the 90s X-Men cartoon. I buy 100% the Jubilee would get thrown in with Magneto, right?
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I don't mean because he's a kid.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about in scene.
Okay.
So this is not a thing I picked up on first viewing.
Okay.
So he is about to be so Deadpool comes up and kind of stops him, and then wearing his jersey and the trainee thing, and I love all of that. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. And he and he has his exchange with Fire Fist. And he stops him. They kind of deter him. They put the
restraining
thing on, the collar thing on him, and then he begs to not be sent back with the headmaster, and he wants to go to the icebox. He says, "Send me to the icebox." And Deadpool's like, you really don't want to go to the icebox. And then that's when Deadpool realizes that he's being abused, right? So Deadpool turns around and he kills the creepy henchman guy, and then the headmaster runs off and dodges all the bullets. And the headmaster has survived. And the very next scene, he's just in the icebox. Why?
No. I think you're reading that scene wrong. It's not that there is a chance that he is going to go back to the school. Like Deadpool saying, like, you're not going to get to go back to school. He's like, I don't want to go back to school. I want to go to the icebox.
I don't think that's what's going on there.
Okay.
Really don't.
Okay.
It looked like they were about to put him back in his custody.
Okay. I'll have to rewatch it.
Because I mean, like, I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Like I said, I'm not totally sure. But like he's pleading to go to the icebox. It really looked like they were about to put him back in his custody. But then, if they think he's too much of a threat, they wouldn't do that either.
Yeah. Which is what I thought was happening.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a thing I'm not totally sure I'm right about.
Never mind.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because we were talking about the neck collars, and it just made me think, I really love the try 7, and then 7 just works.
Oh, yeah, that's
try
the best.
7? It's not just going to be one number.
It's like your luck's run out. No, it hasn't. 7's, I don't know, 7? Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you just reminded me of this with collars, because we always have
those have a name, I'm pretty sure.
Away powers.
And I can't remember what they are.
Because we do that a lot with, in the 90s X-Men cartoon, we do it really early when we send a bunch of mutants to an island. Genosha, that's what it is, yeah. But anyway...
which is a story I've been waiting for them to do in the X-Men movies.
It's really cool that it's a straight-up X-Men movie. It's weird that the first movie doesn't have anything to do with what X-Men movies are about, and then this is an X-Men movie.
Yeah.
But what I'm really excited about with it is that it proves that they can do rated R X-Men.
Yeah.
And that's not a thing I ever thought I would really care about, except they're not afraid to tell real stories now. So, yeah, we did it with Logan, and Logan is very much about the things X-Men are about, but this actually has, X-Men in it, and, X-Men in costumes, and it's in a city, and it's not, off in a forest someplace.
Well, it's weird how in both of these movies...
It's got all the trappings, is what I'm saying.
It's weird how in both of these movies we've gotten so many things...
I want to think this kind of thing is going to help the PG-13 movie, X-Men movies, be a little bit smarter. Because this movie in particular, as you say, but not just because it's smaller, is looking back at the aesthetic and the flavor of X2 really hard.
Yeah. I think it's there's things. It's in both of them. Both the Deadpool movies. There's things where I'm like, boy, how come it took to Deadpool to get to that? The dampener collars. Where have those been? This is a big X-Men thing. There's lots of those where I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's just gonna... And that makes me really excited for X-Force, which I didn't care about before, but, that's probably gonna be, the X-Men movie that we should be getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm really excited about that. And I want it to be Sinister, because they will do Sinister straight up. He'll be a big-looking, Dracula-looking guy with the diamond in his forehead. He'll be all pale, he'll have teeth, with the big cape.
I mean, if the rumors are true, they're gonna ruin that with
New Mutants.
With New Mutants, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also... I just thought of this. It's
or
also
they just
cool.
won't care. They'll do it twice.
Yeah, maybe they will, because they don't care. And it's really nice that they don't care about whatever the other movies are doing.
Yep.
Deadpool has such a I don't give a crap attitude that the movie and the character, they can do whatever they want to. And it's cool that the studio and Marvel they're not concerned about any kind of consistency or synergy with anything else they're making. They're like, yeah, we did Colossus different, but you can have them. Yeah, that's not Negasonic Teenage Warhead's power in the comics. That's fine, you can change it. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool that they are allowing them to go their own way with that kind of stuff. And that they only change comic book things when it really makes sense for the movie.
And her girlfriend's hilarious.
She's really funny, yeah. But no, something I really appreciate is this as a sequel. it does some really nice mirroring and parallel plot stuff. So you have this kid that has a parallel tragedy with Deadpool, but it's not, of course, exactly the same thing. It is a little bit annoying that we get more about more about Wade's background with his parents and his father here when it's convenient to finally bring it up. We didn't get any of that in the first movie, and
well, I mean, he brings it up because they're talking about kids and being a dad.
Yeah, no, I get that, but also, like, that's thematically what we're doing right then, because we're going to lose her, and then it's a plot about family, and we're going to be dealing with a kid later, and the kid he had upbringing problems, and or rather, I guess we don't know anything about his parents, but I forget if they said anything about the kid's parents.
I can't remember.
But he's a crappy father figure, and so Deadpool relates to that, and we now appreciate that Deadpool can relate to that because we just 20 minutes earlier found out about his father. It's a little convenient. I wish we got more of that last movie when we could have gotten it, and all we got last movie was a bunch of stuff that he says to Vanessa that may or may not be true, because they're kind of one-upmanshiping each other, and they make up a lot of things. You don't know what's exaggeration, what's not. So I don't know. I wish we'd had some of that earlier. But anyway, but it's cool that Deadpool gets Wade gets superpowers because he's forced to get them, and this kid, there's a guy who's trying to take them away, and they both have similar experiences and a revenge motive because of that. So it's just people manipulating mutants in some way or another. And we've always done this with these movies, where there's someone who either wants to give you powers or take away your powers. But it's neat, 2 movies in a row, he has the exact opposite thing happening to him, and it leads to the same place.
I also really a nice bit of detail that I feel like we miss or not miss, we just don't care about in movies.
Yeah,
he has those marks. The Fire Fist has those marks on his neck the entire movie.
Sure.
I feel like in most movies we would establish that, then we would never see them again.
Or we give him a collar so he didn't have to.
We'd just be like, I don't know, enough time passed in the prison that he doesn't have them anymore. He has those on his neck the whole movie. That's a really nice bit of continuity that we don't usually do.
So, last big thing I want to mention is, obviously we need to talk about the mid-credits. I don't understand, and I've said this before, how in this day and age we are still seeing people walk out in the middle of credits.
Yep.
And in this particular case, it's a travesty because you're missing what is either the most important part of the movie or will end up not mattering at all later. Although, on a second viewing, for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure it'll stick.
That's interesting, because my initial reaction is that none of that will stick. Ryan Reynolds will not be dead. But more importantly, I think Vanessa stays dead.
No, but here's the thing. The going back to other timelines thing, I think that could very easily be written off as unreliable narrator.
Sure.
That he's showing us that stuff because it's funny and only we would get it, and he's like, I'm gonna go clean up the timelines. Okay, you have a time travel device, not a interdimensional jumping device. It doesn't really make sense that he could come into our world or that he could go into the Origins world. Those two timelines don't remotely fit together. If you went back in time, everyone knows this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If you went back in time, you would not find old Deadpool because you didn't go through Weapon X, you went through this Weapon Other thing, and so obviously,
Plus, right? Is that what they call it in the first one?
I don't know if they call it anything, honestly. I didn't notice a name for it. But when you, which was curious to me, but when you or maybe Agent Smith does say something, I can't remember. Okay. But yeah. So when you when you go back in time, you wouldn't find those timelines. So obviously that's kind of just for the audience. But consistently, we've never done something like that in scene, in present day, in the actual continuity we're looking at. I mean, we see Negasonic and her girlfriend fix the time travel device. Surely we don't immediately retcon that next movie. That's a thing we see happen in scene, and he uses it, and he goes back, and he saves Vanessa. I don't know. I think she's alive next time.
That's disappointing if that's true.
I think it would be very, very strange to give us that and that not happen. Yeah. And you can't say, well, I'm not saying you would, but you can't say it's in the middle of credits, so it's not part of the movie, so it doesn't count. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could see that going either way. I could see them saying, yeah, it was a joke, and then we and all the scenes after that are reinforcing to you that this is just joke. Or I could see
the way it plays in the moment before you get to the obvious things that can't possibly be happening. That are both very funny and wonderful.
Yeah.
But
Warner Brothers didn't think so.
I know it's great. But when but when you get to that, just to the scene where he goes back in time, I mean, it feels very much like it's. Oh, and something else you have to remember is that's not the only thing he does. He also, it's not the first thing he does, because he also goes back and he saves the guy without powers.
Yes, Peter.
Does that also not happen?
Yeah, he saves Peter.
You see what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't feel like a bunch of stuff you would retcon.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
you also had a quick bit in the after credits before you got to that that's pretty innocuous. Did that also not happen just because it's in the credits? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, no, if they retcon that, I'll be really surprised, and I'll cry foul on it. That's very strange. I'm with you. I don't know if I like it,
especially given that there's not gonna be a Deadpool 3. But also, I feel like that robs this movie of all of its weight.
Yeah.
Boy, I hope they don't stick to that.
That would be my worry too. So that's the thing, is if you walked out and you didn't see it, you either missed a thing that deflates a lot of the movie, maybe, or you missed a thing that is the most important thing in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Also, on a second viewing, I'm very impressed with Cable and his forethought in how he goes back and saves Wade. Because for a second, and I wasn't right about it. For a second, I was like, okay, so you go back and you put that, and you put the token, and I like the symbolism of the token. You know, I like that, like his heart's got to be in the right place, and now Cable's heart is in the right place, and he puts the token over his heart, and Vanessa's his inspiration and all that. That's great. But you know, and like it's a price he doesn't have to pay anymore, and it's a token. Just all that's great. But at first I was thinking, so he puts the token there so that when he shoots him, he won't die. But he shoots him because he thinks the kid needs to die, but now the kid doesn't need to die anymore, so why would he shoot him? But he has to, because if he doesn't, then the kid isn't inspired by Deadpool putting his life on the line for him, and he might still go the way he goes. Cable has figured all of that out in like 25 seconds. It's really funny.
And also, Deadpool's death is amazing.
It's amazing. No, it's really funny.
Cable, I hope you've learned not to judge people by the color of their skin.
Oh man, that's the best! Where he just keeps making up reasons that he's racist, but he's not racist. And I gotta say this
Black
too.
Tom Cassidy is not black.
The racial humor is so funny.
It is. All I remember is that he was African
All of
American.
it, and Brown Panther, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
No, you know, like I'm loving it more as we're talking about it. But like we're not sitting here looking at it, and so I'm not like looking at those places where I was like, either I don't find that funny or I don't get it. And I think some of the reason this movie is more for you is because I think there were jokes that went over my head that did not yours. I think that happened.
Well, when we talked about when we walked out, you were like, yeah, there's a lot of jokes that are like those like deep pull kind of jokes, and you were like, I think you got a lot more of those than I did.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the first movie, there are some of those that I'm not getting to, but they're always funny for some other reason. And this didn't have that. I felt like there were places where I just am not laughing, it's not there. And also, there's one or two things that are in trailers that should have been in the movie and didn't make the movie. And the main one is your bullets are really fast.
Yeah.
Man, I wish they left that line
That
in.
scene doesn't play
Without it.
Yeah.
It really needed that.
No, I like forgot for a second. I was like, oh, he's bleeding. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's a lot of fun to talk about. Like, I'm definitely... I mean, I really liked it. It's just I didn't like it as much as the first movie.
I really liked it.
But yeah. Well, thanks a lot for watching our Spoilercast, folks, and leave your comments and let us know what you thought of Deadpool 2. And Eric and I are going to go on now in the Omnibus, so if you are watching the playlist, you can just let this run, and it'll jump to the next part seamlessly, with possibly a commercial interruption. And we're going to go on to how we felt about, and we're going to talk about a couple more things, including Batman Ninja, which just came out last week. So look forward to that, and we will see you again after this break.
Batman Ninja, the most divisive geek movie since Star Wars.